himself was in a state of saying, while he was unable to be God. قال تعالى إن شكرتم لأزيدنكم. Respected friends, Sunni brothers and sisters, understand the gospel of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this ayat gives us a principle that we need to pay very close attention to. It basically says that if we show gratitude, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will increase his favor. And if we are ungrateful, we don't show gratitude, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says his punishment is very, very stern. Now, if we look at the life of a Muslim, of course, a non-Muslim, the object of life is quite different than the Muslim. The Muslim has a whole different basis of life, supposed to. The problem is that we have kind of become disconnected in many ways. But theoretically, there's three principles, three elements in the belief set of a person of Iman, which are totally absent in the mindset and in the perspective of the people who don't have Iman. The people who have Iman, there's three premises. First premise being, this creation, this universe surrounding us, it has a creator. Obviously, there's no possibility of a creation without a creator, somehow or another. There are human beings that are not capable of seeing that. And of course, the blind are not capable of seeing. And as Allah says, the real blindness, which is really, 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 really serious, is not the blindness of the eye, it's the blindness of the heart. The heart has become so blind that you cannot realize that there's a creator by looking at the creation around you. You're in bad shape. Anyway, so the first premise of the people of Iman is that there's a creator who has created everything and created us as well. The second premise is that the creator has not left the creation without guidance. There's a possibility that the creator could have created and said, okay, you're on your own, figure it out. That's not the case. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator, has sent prophets and books to guide mankind, to demonstrate the way in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has engineered the human being in his life. The third premise is that after this life, after death, there's going to be an accountability. And in this accountability, every action, even every thought of the human being is going to be taken account of. There's going to be muhasabah, hisab. ما لهذا الكتاب لا يغادر صغيرة ولا كبيرة إلا أحصاها ووجدوا ما عملوا حاضرا لا يظلمون. Everyone will be given a book of deeds. Can you imagine this? From the time that you reached puberty until the moment that you left the world, every single thing that you've done, said, thought, harbored the thought of, it's all going to be registered in that book. And when the person sees it, he's going to be absolutely devastated. What kind of a book? Every single thing is mentioned. Major events, minor events, nothing. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would not wrong, he will not He will not perpetrate injustice in the amount of the Muslims. Or listen, don't be wrong. So a person of Iman, this is what's in front of them all the time. A person of Iman believes in Allah. When he believes in Allah, that means we believe that Allah has also sent us a way of life, guidance. And that way of life of guidance, as we have been probably hearing again and again, it's not simply what we do in the mosque. It's not simply what we do in the month of Ramadan. It's not simply what we do when we go for Hajj. But it's a total way of life, meaning from the time we say, Alhamdulillah alladhi ahyana ba'dama amatana wa ilayhi nushur. How many know this dua? How many say this dua every morning? Suppose if we say this, we know this dua, and we're supposed to say this dua. Why? Allah doesn't need our dua. We need the dua. When we begin the day, we need to begin the day realizing what this new day means to me. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in Surah Al-Furqan that He has made the night and the day khilfatan liman arada an yadhakkara aw arada shukura. Suppose if the day just went on and on and on and on and on, there's not a cutoff point. So we continue in our folly, we continue in our law and law, right, in our foolishness, and maybe that can continue right to the end of our life. You know, they say that, you know, the intoxication of alcohol or other drugs, 6 hours, 8 hours, 2 hours, whatever it is. Once you go to sleep, you wake up, you come back to your senses. If we're intoxicated with the world, the person who's intoxicated with the world doesn't wake up until they enter into the grave. It's too late now. One who's intoxicated with power, one who's intoxicated with me, ego, intoxicated with the lust for things. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't have mercy, then that intoxication continues. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His kindness, 24 hours, every 24 hours, night, day, night, day. By the way, night is for what? Day is for what? That also has become something of a question. It didn't used to be. But we live in such an unprecedentedly weird world today that everything has become deceiving. So ultimately, actually, according to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَجَعَلْنَا اللَّيْلَ لِبَاسًا وَجَعَلْنَا النَّهَارَ مَعَاشًا. The people of Karachi somehow haven't understood this verse. They begin their day, I think in Portland, of course, you do that. But, they open up the market at 12 o'clock. After all the barakat has been distributed and everyone in Karachi, the visitors, is asleep, the barakat has been distributed, gone. Now we come to the shop and looking for some khair. It's not going to work. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made the day for engaging in day affairs and the night for rest and recuperation. Why? So that the next day we get another chance. Another chance. And we know that as human beings, Kullu Bani Adam Khatta, this also said that every son of Adam, they're Khatta, they're not people who make blunders, they are continuously, incessantly making blunders. All of us, myself, we're all in that ship. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that. He created us like that. And Nabi Sallallahu says, وَخَيْرُ الْخَطَّائِينَ التَّوَّابُونَ. So everyone is going to make blunders and plenty of them, but the best of the people, and everyone does make blunders, are the ones who incessantly and continuously make tawbah. Imam Ghazali, he says, don't be as helpless in tawbah as you are in offering sins. You're sinning all the time, so make tawbah. At least as much. No. So every day we have a new chance, a new opportunity. And so when we say this dua in the morning, Alhamdulillah, the first thing we do, we open our eyes and say, how many people, don't wake up in the morning? How many people go to sleep and they don't say Alhamdulillah alladhi ahyana because they don't come back to life? Plenty. Must be thousands of them every day. So these du'as that we say, these are not just something that we learned and, alhamdulillah, yeah, I know that. It's just a point. You say it, and if you say it, how many of us who say it think about it? Alhamdulillah, yes, subhanAllah, I could very well have been woken up in the grave. SubhanAllah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me an opportunity to wake up alive. Alhamdulillah, the ahyana ba'dama amatana. What does that mean?
You have to return to
Going back to Allah. Every morning we're supposed to remember that. As soon as saying Alhamdulillah and back to Allah, we're going to, for that accountability. Every morning. And then when we go to sleep at night, what do we say? Allahumma. This week, Amut. What? Maybe. Yeah, hopefully. But maybe not. So from the beginning of the day to the end of the day, we are supposed to be attentive to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Knowing full well that He's given us a way of life to live. And in everything that we engage in, there's guidance for that. There's a way of doing things. We don't just eat the way we want. We don't just dress the way we want. We don't just talk the way we want. Now we have human beings for thousands of years. They say that we have about 6,000 to 10,000 years of documented human civilization. In this last 100 years, we have seen such unprecedented, upheavals in human society that the world has never seen before. These screens right in front of you. Russia did so much. We live in an unprecedented, strange world. And we're supposed to navigate through all these unprecedented, strange situations as Muslims. So we as Muslims understand that, again, back to the initial premise. We have a Creator. He has given us a way of life. And my success in this world at the time of death and continuing forever. Think about forever. People say, we're having a hard time this year. We're having a hard time for a decade. The judgment is 50,000 years. One day. 50,000 years. Can you imagine standing up, waiting for your judgment for 50,000 years? It's impossible. And this is what we're facing. So on that day, what's going to happen is that book that we've been recording our actions and our doings, our sayings, etc. It's going to be presented. So we're preparing for that day. We are preparing for that day. Our working here or our doing whatever, these are all part of the preparation, actually, not for the end of the month paycheck, but actually for the day in which we have to stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and give an account for all of this. This is what we're here on. So we Muslims have this point, but the rest of the world, as I said, unprecedented. Previously, people used to believe in some sort of divinity. They used to think that there was some greater power than man himself. And they had various perceptions of that. But the continuum of the sending of prophets and revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has always been Adam alayhi salam, just present to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So there was always this awareness. There is a divine. And people used to understand that there was a divine system of life. And people had some concept of an accountability after death. Today, no. Today, the majority of the people on the planet, they don't believe in a creator. And even if they say we don't believe in a creator, if you ask them, I don't know and I don't care and I don't think it's really, I don't see any impact in my life, so I don't know. It's not negative. So if you don't believe in a creator, or you're indifferent to the concept, then obviously you're not going to believe in a divine system of life, right? So then what do? Well, just like Nike says, what do they say?
Just do it.
Just do it. What's the consequence going to be? Well, just don't get caught. That's the consequence. That's the world policy now. Let me tell you something. Now, your clients might not like to hear this. But most of your clients are in the United States, right? Not all of them. Well, in the United States, we know very well, citizens of the United States, we know very well that everything that comes out of the White House, every statement made on the media from the White House is a lie. I'm not making exaggeration. It's a lie. It's a total lie. That is the policy. It's impossible for them to tell the truth what's really going on because it will be disastrous. So everything that they say, you can count it, it's a lie, and probably the reality is 180 degrees on the other side of what they've stated. That sounds kind of strange. Well, that's not really the United States. That's probably in most countries of the world. But since the United States think that they own the universe, so this is what they do. Now, why do they do that? Would somebody give statements that are absolutely false if they had a belief that they would die one day and stand in front of their creator who would take them to account for all of those lies? But they will. And can you imagine the day of judgment when you have been telling lies to the world and you've been causing chaos and corruption throughout the world? What kind of hisab are you going to face? There's no cognizance of that. And again, it's like an intoxication. Now, we, on the other hand, and we're very good at criticizing everybody else, they did this. What impact has that had on us? Since we see that that's foreign policy, that's domestic policy, we see that in politics, we see that in finance. Whatever the financial experts of the world, are telling you, it's also a pack of lies. It's also total nonsense. So we see around us a world of deception, a world of lies, a world of self-gratitude. What's in it for me? Me. And so as a result of that, unfortunately, we Muslims were affected by the attack. That's human nature. So if the entire world is dedicated to their own self-gratification, then why should I be different? Trying to be different is going to be difficult. That's what everybody's doing, so why not I do that? So in a world where everything is going in the wrong way, it's difficult to do something in the right way, even though the right thing may be easy. In a world where everything is going in the right way, doing something wrong will be difficult. In Medina Munawwara, it was difficult to be a munafiq. They had a lot of trouble. They had a lot of problems because anytime, if they weren't careful, it would become clear that they're a munafiq, they're a hypocrite, and that would be the end for them. They would be socially ostracized, they would be recognized, and that would be. So it was difficult for a person not to offer salat in the masjid even. Let alone not to offer salat, but not to offer salat in the masjid because then it might be known that you're not really aligned with Islam. That would be your political end. Right? Now we live in a world where everything is the opposite. Islam is very easy, it's nothing difficult. Everything that Islam guides us to, that it tells us to do, it's the easier way to do things. It's the more logical way to do things. And it's the more beneficial way for everybody. But when you live in a world where everything is juxtaposed to what is right, what is honest, what is just, what is beneficial, that even if it has all those characteristics, that's the world we live in today. Now, the good news is, Nabi Sallallahu says that people are going to come in the later times, towards the end of time. And those end times must be quite near because things are really, really out of control. So those people who come in that time, if they do a tenth of what you people are required to do, they'll make it. Whereas Prophet ﷺ said to the Sahaba, if you leave a tenth of what you're supposed to do, you're going to fail. It's going to be disastrous. Because the environment is much different. They have Prophet ﷺ with them, they have the environment of Medina, they have the support. Today we have, the support is totally compulsive. Everywhere. So it's going to be difficult. Nabi Sallallahu says, in those times, the person is going to hold fast to his deen. It's like the person holding a light coal, jamra. Have you ever taken a barbecue piece of koila, as we say, right? How long could you hold a burning koila in your hand? For a second, a minute, an hour? How about a whole life? Well, that's like holding on to Islam in the business of ages like this. And furthermore, he said, بدأ الدين غريب سيعود غريبا كما بدأ طوبى للغرباء. When Nabi Sallallahu began with this deen, it was very strange. What's this? He's made all of our deities one deity. This is really strange. You're going against our whole ancestral, tradition. So it was very beginning, and all the things that he was, inviting to, many of that was very strange for the people at that time. And Prophet ﷺ said, and then that became actually the norm. We were actually, you must know that. If you don't know that, you should know that. That actually the Muslims, as Islam spread in the world, we were the dominant force of everything positive in the world. We were the superpower. And bil haqq. When we understood our purpose, we believed in Allah, we believed in the system of life, and we believed in the accountability. We had tyrants also. We had Mufsideen. Everything wasn't perfect. We had ups and downs as well. But when we lost, we lost sight of our objective of life, we lost sight of our values and our core purposes and objectives, we just ended up, falling down and becoming like everybody else. And when we did that, not only we lost, but the whole world lost. Sheikh Abul Hassan Ali Nadwi, a very interesting book, he says, is basically what the world lost with the downfall of the Muslims. The Muslims were the benchmark. We showed people justice, we showed people belief, iman, justice, equity, truth, qualities, values. So when we were gone, when we descended into the abyss of faithlessness, love of the world, fear of death, bhakti faida, the whole world, you see, suffers. It continues to suffer until Islam stand up once again. So my friends, it's not simply that we happen to be employees or Pakistani citizens, we happen to be employees in a particular company, we earn our livelihood, we go home, we cook and we eat and we go to sleep, we get up, we offer prayer. We have something much more important in the overall scheme of things. Therefore, whenever I go, and I'm particularly fond of interacting with students. My favorite group is students. Whether it's in madrasa, it's in a school, it's in a university, whatever, students, the youth. The youth. Because the youth are a new chance for humanity. You understand that? Understand who you are. You're not just, okay, we're Pakistani, we're Muslim, and we work in Bordada, and okay, fine. Muslims are either the successful future for humanity, or if they don't understand who they are and they don't take up the responsibilities they have, then they are the reason for the continual decline. So we have big responsibility. And now think about this. Here in this company, you're in contact daily with people all over the world. Particularly interesting, think about this. You're in continuous contact. How many people here are in contact with people in the United States on a daily basis? Or indirectly? Right? They're observing everything that you do. It's not just you're doing business with them, they're buying something and what have you, providing services, etc. They're observing very carefully. And since Islam is what was the hottest subject, perhaps, in geopolitical news, because actually what's going on in the world today is, as I said, we have the camp of people who have faith, who are very small, but it's a growing number of people. And then we have the other camp, which is ruling the world, is in control of all the resources, and wants to continue that control, and wants to dominate and totally wipe out that other camp. And that's the camp of history. That's the camp of materialists. And in reality, the two-party system of the world is Hezbollah and Hizb Shaitan. So if you're not in the Hizb of Allah, then whose Hizb are you in? You're with Shaitan. There's not like a medium ground out there. You're either with them or you're with them. So as a Muslim, whether he's a business person, whether he's an employee, he's an employer, he's a farmer, he's a craftsman, he's a sweet streeter, whatever he is, his character has an impact on the world. His iman, his character, his action, what he says, how he carries himself. And the whole world is watching. The whole world is watching. And now on social media, what you do here, it's broadcasted internationally within seconds, right? Suppose Pakistan from today, everybody in Pakistan says, okay, we are going to be model Muslims. Within seconds, the whole world is going to hear about that. And if they actually do that, the whole world is going to see that. But what kind of impact do you think that would have? Of course, you're not going to see that on BBC. You're not going to see that on, all these other US, but you'll see it in social media immediately. TikTokers are going to grab that immediately. It's going to be on spread out all over the world. Right? So my friends, what I'm trying to impress you, there's various issues in this, but the main thing is that we understand who we are, what's our objective. And if we understand that, then our whole approach to life changes. I'm sitting here for 6 hours or 8 hours. Is this like some vacuum? Or this is part and parcel of my portfolio as a Muslim? Is this part of my being a Muslim, or this is something outside? It's off the record. This is a funny thing, it's not funny at all, really, but I mean, it's strange that we Muslims somehow have got this idea, we developed this idea that namaz, roza, hajj, zakat, some kind of, kindness to people, this is Islam. What about all the other things that we engage in? Government has nothing to do with Islam. The workplace, not Islam. That's dunya, that's work. This is what has destroyed us. Bivocation. We'll keep our deen, and this is actually exactly what the enemies of Islam want. Okay, pray, yeah, by all means, go for Hajj, fast, Ramadan, read Quran, zikr. But don't act like a Muslim in the workplace. Don't rule your country like a Muslim. Don't set up Islamic financial, systems, because this is a challenge. The powers that be, it shakes their whole foundation. they definitely don't want that. And so therefore, for the past over 100 years, for the past century, century and a half, huge efforts have been made to strip us of our consciousness that Islam permeates everything that we do, particularly in the workplace, in our professions, in our crafts. So sitting here at the office, 6, 8 hours, it's either Arabia or it's dunya. And we're just dunya, we're just here to earn and go home and feed our stomachs. So what's it between us and cows and sheep? You know, Ghazali says, you know, if we don't really have cognizance, if we don't pay attention, we don't really, see ourselves for who we are, we end up taking on the characteristics of the animals. Because after all, we are an animal, but a very intelligent animal, with a very specific portfolio. Right? So if we don't understand our lofty status, then we just end up being animals. And the funny thing about it is that we don't remain in one place like the cows and the sheep. They just go out in the pasture, they eat the grass, they come back, they drink the water, and they go to sleep. They don't, they don't attack, the pastures of other people. They don't attack, other animals. They just eat the grass and chill out, the expression, right? But human beings, they don't do that. And many of us, that's what we do. What do the cows and sheep do? They go out in the morning, they graze, they come back. So we go out in the morning, go to the job, earn the money, come back. So what's the difference? Actually, theoretically, there's a difference. Now, the human being, the main difference is that the human beings don't remain like that. The Prophet ﷺ said, the stomach of the son of Adam doesn't fill up except with dirt. In other words, it expands and expands and expands to no limit. Only dirt of the grave will fill up the pate of the beginning. What was I saying before that? What did I say just before that?
We're like animals.
To see if we're all making, and everyone is making adjustments. So what happens is that unlike the cows, we start looking at the property of others, money of others, the wives or the husbands of people of others, right? The property of others, the rights of others. And we start taking on the characteristics of the lions and the tigers and attacking. And then it doesn't stop there, because a tiger, after all, once he eats what he's going to eat, that another animal can just walk past and he's not going to be interested. He's got stomach is full, but the human being's stomach doesn't get full. As a matter of fact, he goes on even starting to enjoy afflicting people with misery. Look at Gaza. These people, it's like they're enjoying what they're doing. As a matter of fact, they do. You see these videos, they call them the IDF. It's actually IOM. By the way, correction. It's not the Israeli defense. They're not defending anything. They're oppressing. They're offensive. They go on, they celebrate that we killed so many Palestinians. We killed so many kids. We made mothers, scorpions, snakes. They bite, they sting. What do they get out of it? Zero. So what happens is a human being gets so, deranged that they start enjoying being, evil. They enjoy seeing other people suffer. We have a lot of those today. And I would mention another type that probably wasn't so prominent in the time of Imam Ghazali. But we have another type of human beings that are like monkeys. Have you been to the zoo? You ever see the monkeys? They make you laugh. There's something interesting about them. They do things and they make people laugh. So we have this whole industry called comedy. You heard about that?
Yeah.
It's a big industry. It's $1 billion industry. And usually comedy is what, the art of humiliating others and making everybody else laugh. Prophet ﷺ says this is in the bottom of Jahannam. Humiliating others for the sake of people to laugh about it, this is one of the worst things you could possibly do. Holy hell. It's a billion-dollar industry, and we have Muslims engaged in it. We have now Muslim stand-up comedians. What in the world? I mean, this started in my lifetime. We never heard of a stand-up comedian as a Muslim leader. This was relatively new. And Nabi Sallallahu said, that you will follow the people who came before you, step by step, step by step. If they go into a lizard hole, you'll also go. How do you went to the lizard hole? Come on, let's go. Maybe something there. So if we don't understand our objective, we don't work on ourselves, we start getting worse and worse. Allah SWT himself says, they're like the animals, the beasts. Moreover, they're farther off the track. Who are they? Ghafilun. Ghafla. I think in Urdu we also have this word, right? Ghaflat.
Yeah.
I'm not cognizant. I'm unaware, not paying attention. Allah has given us, He's given us an objective of life. He's given us a short period of time. We see the people being cared every day. Janazah. How many people want to Umrah? Hajj, right? After every salat, how many janazahs are being performed? How many janazahs are being performed every day here in Karachi? Thousands. And one day it's going to be ours. We're supposed to be preparing for that. And the preparation for that day is throughout the day and night, in our day and night. 6 hours, 8 hours that we're here in the workplace is also preparing for that. How am I going back to the theme? Am I showing gratitude? Look at, subhanAllah. In the state of California where I live, which is supposed to be, the United States being whatever people conceive that to be, and California is the cream of America. Everybody wants to. In the state of California, 50,000 homeless people. Homeless. And by the way, some of the biggest concentration of those homeless people are in the places where you have the highest concentration of billionaires. San Francisco. Right. You go down the main street towards City Hall. It's all lined up with human beings with no place to live. They don't even have a bathroom. The bathroom is the street. San Francisco, California, United States of America. The country where it's supposed to be, the streets are supposed to be one brick of gold and one brick of silver. Huh? It's not like that, folks. Not everywhere. They could care less. They're doing nothing about it. No shu'ur even. How many people here in Karachi, they don't have a house to live in? How many people in Karachi actually get, a few decent meals, good balanced decent meals, or can afford good decent meals every day? The way things are going and the way inflation is today, not a lot. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, we have all these things. We have a house over our head. We have a family, we have, we're eating, we have a good position. This is from where? This is the fadl of Cordata. Hada min fadli Cordata? Or hada min fadli men? Hada min fadli? It's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If Allah wanted, He could have us laying on the street. This is fadl. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if you recognize the ni'mah, and what ni'mah? Go on recognizing. Number one, we exist. That's in and of itself. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, did any of us, put in a petition, oh Allah, I think I deserve to exist, so you have to create me? Or any of us deserve to be created? Nobody. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us. And then He made us, created us as human beings, and He created us and made us among the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, gave us iman, subhanallah. And on top of that, He's given us, a very comfortable lifestyle, as compared to millions of people. The problem with the human beings, we all look at the person up. I have a bicycle, that's a great example. Before that, I was walking. But as soon as the guy comes by on a motorcycle, that bicycle becomes nothing. Then I get a bicycle, then I get a motorcycle, mashallah, then I see the fellow in the Toyota Corolla. Oh. Motorcycle is now gonna take my eyes. And I'm working hard for another 5, 10 years, I get a new Toyota Corolla, I'm driving my Toyota Corolla, a fellow goes by me in a Mercedes. Oh, Toyota Corolla becomes absolutely nothing worthless. And he goes on and on and on, right? So therefore, Nabi Sallallahu said, don't look at the people who are above you in the dunya. Look to the people who are below you in that status. And this will keep you in gratitude. This is one of the initiatives to keep ourselves grateful. By continuously looking at the people who are not as fortunate as we have. And whoever you are, there's always going to be somebody who has less of the worldly things than you. Now, as for deen, where should we look? People below us? We look at people who are behind us. When we strive, and we've got the benchmark of Muhammad Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So that's a goal which can never be achieved. So in terms of deen, we look at those who are ahead of us. Find motivation, to move in that direction in terms of deen. And in terms of the world, to show gratitude, we look at the people who are less fortunate. And there's millions of them all around us. And it is also, this is this is going to be more effective and more appropriate so that you don't start belittling, discounting the favor of Allah upon you. We were just talking, when I was a young man, we used to observe that in businesses, what used to happen? Somebody would graduate from high school, take a position. Somebody would graduate from college, somebody from university, perhaps trade school. And they would get a job with a company. And they would continue that company until they retired. Because people, they want, it's a means of sustenance. They're settled there. It becomes like a family there. And we don't have to worry. I'm paying my bills, I'm eating, and we carry on. Now what happens is, as soon as we get into the company, bigger paycheck, bigger facilities, bigger. We're never happy, just content. And then we go to the next place, we can do it. And the idea is that when I get to that position, I'm going to be happy. Happiness is, seeking happiness outside is a delusion and illusion. Delusion and illusion, meaning that's a, misperception that happiness and satisfaction is somewhere out of you. If I get to America, if I get the green card, and he gets to America, then his children all become, they go off the track. And he says, if I could go back to Pakistan, no, children no longer go back to Pakistan. And so whatever we have, we're never content with it. This is another big problem with human beings. We always want more, better. And as a result of the fact that we have this focus on getting better and more, we never get it. We're never content. Right? Therefore, the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says that the person who wakes up in the morning, he finds he's got health. He finds satisfaction in his heart. In his heart. Where does satisfaction, happiness, where do we find it? In the market? On the job? Or in the heart? In the heart. So this person who has satisfaction in the heart, he has something to eat today, for the day. He doesn't have more than that. He doesn't have his contingency of funds. He doesn't have his, IRA, retirement, set up. He has something to eat today. Tomorrow, who knows? You know, we're really worried about tomorrow, next month, when I retire. What about my children? What about my grandchildren? By the way, who's giving you sustenance today? Who? Who gives sustenance today? Allah. So who's giving you sustenance tomorrow? Who gives me sustenance? Allah. Who's going to give my children? Because we don't have belief, you know, we don't have belief in that Allah is Razzaq. So we go through all of these, you know, these dilemmas and these delusions. I have to work hard. I don't know, my this, they get called or something. Right? Or my children, I have to work hard. And usually what happens is the parents work very hard, they give everything to the children do anything to earn it, they don't care, they don't give a qadr, and they spoil it within a year or two. How many family businesses we see this happens? You know, 30 years, you know, grandfather worked hard, and then, you know, all the children inherit the business, in a year it just gets destroyed. So whatever Allah is going to give is going to give. So that person who has this, you know, this peace of contentment, it's called in Arabic, qina. Qina. Contentment. The person who's content will be happy. The person who's not content, you give him the world in which is happy. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says, if you give the son of Adam a valley full of gold, you can imagine a valley full of gold. And how much per ounce? He'll say, where's the next? Look at us. We're not happy that we've destroyed the earth. Now we want to go to the Mars. We want to destroy that too. We've got junk floating around. We haven't, you know, we're not satisfied polluting the earth and the sea and the air. Now we've got junk in space, space junk floating around in space. Yeah. Much of this, if not all of this, actually stems back to this greed. And a person who's greedy wants I will never be happy, regardless of what he gets. Doesn't matter how much money he gets. Doesn't matter how many, you know. Okay, I'll give you one last story, then I'll finish my talk. Maybe back in the 1980s, so maybe 30 some years ago. So a good friend of mine who was a very big expert here in Pakistan. And he used to have these clients that would come from different places, and he used to export cloth. So he had these clients that would come, Europe, America. And so when they used to come, then he was a person that loved to, you know, propagate Islam and give dawah. So he used to call me and say, Hashim, come and I've got this client, so come. And talk to him. Okay. So at this particular time, this fellow was a client, he came from the United States. And we had a meeting with him, to talk with him on breakfast in the Marriott Hotel. No, it wasn't the Marriott Hotel. What's that? You have Pearl Continental and the other one on the other side of the street. Huh?
Sheraton.
The Sheraton? Whatever. Okay, so we're having breakfast on a work day, and it was, you know, a lot of people in business, whatever. So it was full. The whole restaurant was full, and we're having breakfast with this fellow, and he's telling us about himself. He's a very nice person, very humble, he wasn't being arrogant or boasting. He was just telling us, matter of fact, this is my situation in life. He said, look, whatever money can buy, I have it. I mean, there's nothing left in the world that, you know, that I would even think or that anyone would want that I don't already have. You know, and in that was the 1980s. Not a big deal anymore. He says, you know, if I want to connect with anyone in the world from my bathroom, I can do that. Of course, now it's not a big deal. But in the 1980s, that was a pretty big deal. Anyway, he says, what kind of swimming pool you want in your house, tennis court, rooms, furniture, whatever you want, whatever you need, whatever you would like to have, I have it. He said, but despite that, and this is the reason why he's telling us this. He said, despite that, I have everything. Anything the money can buy, I have it. But I'm not happy. As a matter of fact, I'm lonely, very lonely, actually. So maybe, I assume, maybe living in that whole big, huge mansion by himself. Maybe married, and usually this is what happens, the wife runs off to somebody and the kids run off with their, their wife. This is very common. And then he said the most amazing thing. He said, I know there's a God, but I just don't know how to talk to him. And he just started to weep. He just started. And I mean, he was crying, weeping uncontrollably, like a child who lost his parents. Right in front of everybody, and as I said, the whole place was full, and like, down here. Don't we really think sorry for this? Despite the fact that he has everything money can buy. So what's the point? This is what we're running after. This is what, majority of the people, Muslims also want. Contentment. We should be running after contentment. Contentment comes in integrity. It comes in values. It comes in iman. Allah bi dhikrillahi tatma'innu al-qulub. To be sitting on the workplace here knowing that what I'm doing with integrity, I'm doing with honesty, and I'm earning halal. And earning halal, by the way, doesn't mean just what's the nature of the work that you're doing. The fact that I'm giving what is required from me at the workplace, I'm doing that. I'm not wasting my time. I'm not being, I'm not being unjust. I'm not being dishonest to anyone, not to Allah, not to my employee, not to my client, not to my colleagues. This is all amal salih. These are all actions. And those actions are going to come in that book we talked about. On the day of judgment, we're going to be taking account. A person who has a very small job, and he's working with integrity and honesty. And he's, people used to have a pride, they used to have they used to have other, that what I'm doing well. And then some said, man, we should do things with itqan, with ihsan, with excellence. People used to hold this as being valuable, but not Muslims. Today it's basically worthless. As a result of that, people are unhappy, they're unsatisfied. They're stressed, there's tension. Because we've lost these values. If we get these values, we're earning a very meager salary. We have something to eat. We have, we're settled. That peace of mind, subhanAllah, that peace of heart is invaluable. The money of the world cannot buy that. The point is, my friends, is that as we've been stressing again and again in the whole, the program that we promote in business of live a life of servitude in the business context. In any context we have to be. And here we're talking about the business context because that's the context that we are engaged in here at the workplace. So the person who takes on this mindset, this heart set, takes on these values, is going to be the happiest person. I'll end my talk with this. Ibn Taymiyyah, one of the great scholars of Islam, he said, what will my enemies do with me? If they kill me, shahada. That's great. If they imprison me, it's khalwa. You know khalwa? Khalwa, when you go in Ramadan, it's kind of like a khalwa. I'tikaf is a kind of khalwa. Being alone and solitary so you can get close to Allah. And the people of hearts, the people, saluk, the tasawwuf, that's a big deal. Be alone with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, nothing greater than that. So he said, if they put me in jail, khalwa, wonderful. As a matter of fact, that's what they did. And he wrote his famous tafsir, which is an amazing work, and he used to actually make dua for the people in prison. Because he said, they gave me this opportunity which I never had. He used to make dua for the people who jailed him. Can you imagine that? Okay. So he said, if they imprison me, then it's khalwa. And if they exile me, throw me out of the country, then okay, it's a vacation. That's a journey. It's like to travel and see the world. It's very amazing, the affair of a person to be bonded. Any situation they're in, it's great for them. If they have difficulties, they do sabr, it's better for that. Better for them. And if they get things that they're happy about, they're comfortable with, they do, shukr. So we have much to give gratitude about. We don't have a whole lot to have to suffer about. But if we will live a life, and the life of a movement is between shukr and sabr. Shukr and sabr. So if we live this life of shukr and sabr, then the day will come when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will announce, Ya ayyatuha nafsul mutma'inna. Oh, you soul who is at rest, at peace. Mutma'inna. So you're at peace with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the world. You're satisfied with what He has allotted to you. You're patient with what He has. So since you were mutma'in with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's decision concerning the world, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will have to make you all the more mutma'in in the next group. Ya ayyuhal mutma'in, irji ila rabbi. Come back to your Lord. Irji ila rabbi radiyan mardiyan. You will be very pleased, pleasure that you can't even imagine, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be also pleased with you forever and ever and ever. Fadkhuli fi ibadi. Now look at that. Enter in with my slaves. The people who live like slaves in the world, they'll be totally free in the next world. The people who live totally free in this world, they'll be slaves forever in Jahannam. So enter into my slave. Fadkhuli jannati. And that's where we all want to reach. We want to reach there, to let us prepare. And all this won't tell me give us. We have questions and answers, or that's what?
So we can take a couple of questions.
Disclaimer, I don't guarantee you I have any answer. But you may ask whatever you like. Yeah. No questions. So that means that everybody understood quite well.
I just wanted to ask, how do you perceive Quran? How do you, like, what's your way of learning the Quran itself?
Well, learning the Quran has stages. You want to learn to read it, you want to learn how to understand it, you want to learn how to implement it.
There's the basic perception of it.
Huh?
How do you see it? Like, if you look at any ayat, what's your thought process, like, of understanding?
Well, I don't totally understand the question. I mean, I look at it. You're asking how I look at it? I look at the Quran. It's Allah's kalam. It's His discourse. He's talking to me.
Like, is just reading the translation enough, or maybe you can recommend some books.
So, okay. So reading the Quran, number one of the distinctive peculiarities of the Quran is that its recitation in and of itself is an act of worship. You understand or you don't understand, right? So number one is the recitation itself. Recitation is also not, designed by Qari Sahib. It is the recitation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught Jibreel, who taught Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And as the Sahaba heard Prophet reciting every word of the Quran, they narrate that method of recitation. So this is called tilawah. Tilawah itself has its own merit. Simply reciting those words has a barakah. But it doesn't end there. Number one. Number two, this Quran is a message. It's a guidance. So to be guided by the Quran, we're going to have to understand it. If we don't understand it, we're not going to be guided by it, obviously. So in understanding it, we have two basic options. Number one, we study the Arabic language, we become scholars, and we understand the Quran directly with quite a long process. And if you can do that, nothing like it. Right? And if you can't, it doesn't mean you're going to be mahroom. Because we have scholars who have done that. We have good translations that we can also read and try and understand. But it's very important that we understand that the knowledge of Islam, like any knowledge really, it requires a teacher and a student. So we should find somebody qualified to teach us. And alhamdulillah here in Pakistan, it's not typically fine. And appreciate that, because like in the United States, we had to leave the country to find any even little bit of knowledge, and here we have plenty. So all of that is going to be, and then, once we understand it, then what do we have to do it? And once we do it, is it enough for me only to do it, or we need to promote it? So that's Haqqat Tilawah in the summer.
Any of your favorite recommendations in Tafasir?
In Tafasir? Well, the thing is that, because my work is in Arabic, so the Arabic Tafasir I don't think will help you much. But as far as I know, for example, Mufti Muhammad Shafi has a very great work called Ma'arif al-Quran, which is also translated in English, which has a lot of detail and very suitable for the layman and contemporary issues of sense. So that's one resource that I know that would be very beneficial. Okay.
I have another question. So, how to find the right balance between, working hard and staying content at the same time? Like if a person aims for another job, or let's say another goal in life, and they know that they have this ability that Allah has given them to, aim for something better, but at the same time being content with what they have. At least in my opinion, and I could be wrong, there's a very fine line between this thing, right? So how to find the right balance between the two?
Well, I think that would be the fine line of that would become much more manifest if we started to focus on our objective of life. You see, folks, we have to understand, we are people who, by like it or not, we were born into a world where it was kind of like stacked against us. I don't know if you know this term. The odds were stacked against you. In the sense that from the very beginning of the education, how many people went through the English medium education? Most of the people did. And even if you didn't, the Oxford system or even the matrix system, if you didn't go through the Oxford system, you went through the matrix system, which was devised by who? This was devised by Muslim Pakistanis, or it was devised by who? The British. They're the ones who initiated this system of Ta'lim during the British Raj in India, right? So the whole Ta'lim, the education, tarbiyah that most of us have been receiving from the very beginning of our educational process has programmed us to believe success is things that are better, the good life are things tangible, bigger house, newest iPhone, designer wardrobe, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But actually, the reality of that, now take somebody like me, I grew up without any of that, because I didn't hear about Islam and that. But growing up as a person in show business, I was a musician. By the time I was 20 years old, living in Hollywood and seeing the people who had all that stuff, I never saw more miserable. To this day, I've never seen more miserable people than those people, the celebrities. I have never, I can't even, you can't describe that. You just have to experience that to understand what kind of musibah these people live. So we've been, brainwashed. And particularly, in the Muslim world for the past centuries, I mentioned, Muslims all over the Muslim world, with very few exceptions, have been colonialized. And one of the most important tools of the colonial agenda was the education system. So the aspiration for material has been ingrained we have to fight that. Because that has been ingrained, we have to reformat, okay? Concentrate, we're not here for that. And by the way, those things that we think are the better things, the good things, they don't give us what we're looking for. You go to the Akhtabad and say, Bhai, kya haal hai? Okay, but shukr, alhamdulillah. You go to defense, by the way, defense. They're all in defense. They got big fences, they got big barbed wires, and and so go to your defense, knock on the door, Saab, kya haal hai? Kya pata sab. Must have been the style too. Yeah, well, really, try it. Do an experiment. Go to the poor people and go to the rich people and ask them, how is your life? Right? And this is not just, this is everywhere in the world. I've traveled a lot of the world, and everywhere I go, I see the same thing. The poorer the people, generally, the more content they are. The richer they are, the more uncontent. It doesn't have to be this, but it generally is human nature. So, when we understand our objective, I'm gonna live in this world, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says what? Be in this world like a traveler. I'm traveling to the United States, it's gonna be like a 16-hour flight. So what do? I bring, tons of biryani and korma and this and that and 20,000 suits, and I bring a house on. I'm traveling. I just take something that, kind of food and a couple that I'm going to go and come back. We're on the bridge, we're traveling over the bridge. It was, we're in a nice place. Let's go to the house here. Let's have a swimming pool and a tennis court. And I'll go to the You're traveling, you're just going over. You're only here for a moment. We're only in this world for how long? We don't even know. It's not going to be more than 100 years, that's for sure. Right? And it could end any day. We're going to be in the hereafter forever. Right? What are we doing for that? In my 24 hours today, and again, answering your question, I've got 24 hours. I could do this, I could do that, I could do so many things. I'm only going to be here for a short time. I might be leaving today, if not tomorrow. I've got an eternal life that I'm supposed to be preparing for. What have I done today for that? What did I do? If a person starts thinking like this, he sees life in that lens, then what's he going to do? I think it's going to be pretty clear. More money, more this. God, why? Why should it? It's a burden. People say we should have, in the business, we should have growth every year. Suppose your head grows every year 10%. Would you be happy about that? Huh? Not every growth, a lot of growth is going to be a burden. So what growth is going to be beneficial? By all means, a growth that's going to be a burden. So when you start looking at life from the proper perspective, then these questions will be very clearly answered. If we don't know our objective, that help you or confuse me?
Must.
Okay.
Must.
Namaste.
Okay, so anyway, perhaps we'll have other sessions at other times, inshallah, and hopefully we'll be able to interact more, inshallah. Future sales monthly consultant fee is going to become like an active year. So the government is like about this had the line stop.